All right, so here we are, the third type of 6/4 chord. Remember the first one we talked about was what? Passing. 6/4. The second one was the pedal. 6/4. And now we're going to talk about the cadential 6/4. The cadential 6/4 is a chord that is applied specifically to the 5 chord. And it's usually in the context of the ending of a phrase where you go from 5 to 1. Okay, so imagine we are in the key of G, or key of C, excuse me. We're going to go 5 to 1. Okay, so I'm going to write my 5 chord right here. Okay, so there's our 5 chord, G, B, D. This is just close position, not 4 voice. I want you to really see what happens. And then I'm going to just take this to this 1 chord right here, just so that it can connect smoothly to where we're going. Okay, so now this is 5 to 1. A cadential 6/4 is an embellishment to a 5 chord. Okay, so in this 5 chord, this is a 5/3, correct? It's a root position 5 chord. We have a third, we have a fifth. This is a 5/3. A cadential 6/4 embellishes a 5/3 by doing an upper neighbor to the 5 and an upper neighbor to the 3. That's all it does. So it's very similar to a pedal 6/4, except you don't have the 5/3 before it. Okay, so we've got the G, we've got these two embellishing pitches that take us. Let me play this all for you so you can hear what I'm talking about. Here is 5 going to 1. Okay, so here's 5. Now if we begin with the cadential 6/4, it will go. It's an embellishment of a 5 chord. Let's try another one here in close position, and then so I would like you to write bass clef. Let's do D major and a 5 chord with a cadential 6/4 and then a 5/3. Okay. Let me do that differently. I apologize. So in D, the 5 chord is A, right? So I'm going to do this as a figured bass. So we could write 6/4, 5/3, and then this would be root position. Now, this is a root position A chord, 5/3. Normally, we wouldn't have to include that 5/3. In this case, we do, because we just had an A with a 6/4. And we would assume that that would continue until we're told otherwise. So this is, in effect, canceling this out. All right, so this chord right here, this is a 5 chord. Yes, A, C sharp, E. That's the 5 chord in the key of D. This chord, it tells you what to write. There's a 4th above the bass. There's a 6th above the bass, right? And 6/4 goes to 5/3. What do we call this chord? All right, well, you could look at it and see, well, this is a D, F sharp, A. This is a 1/6/4 chord, okay? We're not going to call it that, and here is why. When you come to this point in a piece of music, you hit this chord, it does not sound like a 1 chord. It sounds like an embellishment of a 5 chord. It sounds like neighbor notes to a 5 chord. So to call it a 1 is to attribute to it a quality that it does not have. Let me play for you just to show you what I mean. So we're in the key of G. Let's see. Here's 1. I'm going to go to 5, 1. There's a very simple progression. 1, 4, 5, 1. Now I'm going to add this embellishment here to the 5 chord. Okay, so all I did was I stuck that in there. Now listen if I stop on this spot. Here's 1, 4, cadential 6/4. That does not sound like a 1 chord. That does not sound like a point of arrival, a point of cadence, a point of rest. In fact, it sounds like it needs to continue on. We were here. It needs to continue on to there, which then can resolve there. Okay. I will link some videos to classical concertos in Mozart piano concertos or Beethoven violin concerto or Haydn trumpet concerto, any of those. Right before, near the end of the first movement, the orchestra will arrive on a cadential 6/4 and stop and create a break. And everything will stop. Feels like a rift in space-time. Okay. And in that break is where you have the cadenza. All right. So there you go. So you would hear then there would be a showy cadenza, and the soloist would come around to, and the 5 would finally go to a 5 chord and resolve, and the piece could go on and end. That is how you do a cadential 6/4. Let's look at it in 4 voices. All right, so in the key of C. Okay, if you have this as a figured bass, you're going to know that this is 5/1 over here. You're going to know this is the cadential 6/4 on the 5, right? So this is a 6/4 to a 5/3. Oh yeah, I didn't talk about what we're going to call this chord, because you could call this a 1/6/4, but it doesn't sound like a 1. This is what we're actually going to call it. We're going to call the whole thing 5, and then we're going to draw these little lines right here to show that this is not a 5 chord in second inversion. This is actually a root position 5 chord which has 2 embellishments on it. And let me explain that. If I wrote 5/6/4 by itself, just a 5/6/4 chord in the key of C, 5 is GBD, 6/4 means the 5th is in the bass. This is a 5/6/4, okay, in the key of C. 5/6/4 does not equal 5/6/4 with the dashes. This means cadential 6/4. This means a root position 5 chord with this embellishing 6/4 chord. That's what these dashes mean. So this means a G will be in the bass, and above the G we have a 6 and a 4 going to a 5 and a 3. Okay, we're going to call it this. The textbook comes up with this weird way where they call it 1/6/4 to 5, but then they do a bracket and say the whole thing acts like a 5 chord. That's made up by the textbook authors, and you know, I like making stuff up, but everybody else in the world does it this way. Let's do it this way. Okay, I think you're all smart enough to realize that this chord right here sounds like a 5 chord, acts like a 5 chord. Yes, it appears to be a 1 chord because of the notes, but it doesn't sound or act that way. All right, that's why this is theory. Okay, all right, so part writing. We've got a repeated bass note that goes 5/5/1 in the bass, 6/4/5/3. This is the pattern that you need to recognize for a cadential 6/4. It would be analyzed like this: 5, 6, 4 with the dashes showing the connection. And this right here tells you exactly what to write. Pay attention, listen carefully, it tells you what to write. Okay? Remember what you double in a 6/4 chord? You double the bass, right? You double the fifth of the chord. So there we go. Look at this. It tells you to write a fourth above the bass and move that fourth to a third above the bass. It tells you to write a sixth above the bass, and it will step down to a fifth above the bass. Can't get any easier than that. It tells you exactly what to write. And now we're on a root position 5 chord. We can take this to 1. So here's our cadential 6/4. Sorry. Okay. So there you go. Cadential 6/4. The next figured bass of the day number 10 will include all 3 varieties, chock full of 6/4 chords. So I'll see you over there. I suggest you, of course, attempt it on your own. I think you're perfectly capable of doing it. Give it your best, and then come over and I'll walk you through it.